What is up? Welcome to the divisional round of the matchup points live stream here at fantasypoints.com. I am John Hansen. That is Adam Caplan and Brett Whitefield. We've got our guy Tommy T and our guy Trey on the other side of the glass. Overbooked here with our producers, but wanted to make sure we were good to go. We are. What's up, guys? I know you're good. Let's get into it here as we jump right into it. Let me just send out my tweet here. Let's see here.
They actually put one out for you already.
Oh, I know. I'm just RTing it with a comment.
Gotcha.
It's that I think that moves the needle a little bit more when we do that. But all right, let's get into the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. Adam already had some big news here with Marlon Humphrey being ruled out. What else is going on here injury wise?
Yeah, so Andrews has got a shot to play. He's the one guy they're not totally sure about. You know, they'll put him through the walkthrough tomorrow in pregame.
Mm-hmm.
The question though is really how much can he play? This is the thing, because he's been out since November 16th when he got hurt. So you're talking about over 2 months. Your conditioning, you're always worried about that. My thing is, if he could run, he could play, but the question then would be how much can he play? So if you're doing daily, and you obviously look for the reports before the game if he's clear to play. If anybody finds out how much they plan to play him, that's a key for daily.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty risky here when we look at it, Brett. Well, this is a rematch here. What are you looking at for your guy Slowick and the Texans here? I mean, I looked at the numbers, and it seems like a pretty good schematic matchup here for Stroud. They mostly play cover 3, cover 4. Certainly no Marlon Humphrey helps, but, they present, a lot of challenges with their various looks. They fake you out with ghosts and the like. What do you think here about Stroud's matchup?
Yeah, the term blocking ghosts was something that I believe it was Mitchell Schwartz said in a podcast recently, and I love it. But that's what Baltimore does. They make your offensive line feel like they're blocking ghosts. They're going to give you a ton of different, pressure looks. They're going to, rock and roll safeties in and out. They're going to show single high, play 2 high. So this is really just a big test for Stroud and see how far he's come with identifying some of these disguised looks. I mean, without Marlon Humphrey, man, you got to love the matchup here for Nico Collins. I mean, shoot, they've been force feeding him the ball. He looks awesome. So I do really like the matchup for Nico. He's going to see, without Humphrey in the lineup, he'll also see a lot of Brandon Stevens, and I think that's probably Baltimore's worst corner, even though he's had a good story this year. So, but Baltimore ultimately they play so much, that off zone type stuff with the cover 3 and the cover 4. And that's really where Nico, he's been shredding those looks all season.
How awesome of a job I thought they did getting him the ball. I mean, it was pretty amazing. I was a little worried, figured he'll command special attention, but I mean, they had no answers for Nico.
Yeah, he's so good on those in breakers, and he's such a big body that even when he's not getting a ton of separation, like he's just open, big, huge target.
Adam, what do you think about the receiver spot opposite Nico? I separate from Dalton Schultz, John Mechie did kind of step up a little bit. Hutchinson, I thought, was coming on a little bit, but he's hit a little bit of a wall. I mean, do we look at Bobby Trees? I mean, somebody else has to step up here. Noah Brown is out.
Yeah, a couple things here. So I would expect Mechie to start opposite Collins and Woods to be the 3. He can be their Z or their slot.
Mm-hmm.
Those two will rotate. Mechie played a lot last week. Remember, it was Stroud's first game as a professional. He didn't turn the ball over in terms of passing. In week 1, he did fumble it, but that was a good test for him. The weather will be clear. Whatever snow they get tomorrow, it's not going to happen on Saturday. The wind should be moderate, so I'm not really worried about that. Their offensive line's kind of stabilized themselves. They've got a couple defensive injuries on the front. But other than that, now if you're the Texans, you're going to want to go after Ronald Darby when he's on the field. He'll see some times. Stevens is a guy everybody picks on. But Ronald Darby, when he's out there, is not the same player he once was. His eye discipline has always gotten him. So that's one thing to watch in that matchup.
Yeah. Filling in there for Marlon Humphrey. I forgot he was even there, honestly.
He'll play.
Yeah. And Arthur Millette, too, the former Steeler, right? Is he more of a nickel corner? Rocky Sin. They got some names back there. Brett, any thoughts on what Brevin Jordan gives this offense? It might not be a lot, but when he gives them something, it's usually big.
Yeah, he's kind of a little yak daddy over there. He's catching some of these check downs and I would say like flat routes. They run some screens to him sometimes, but really good after the catch. You saw it last week. He had the 76-yarder. Most of that was after the catch. So that's it's a nice compliment to Schultz, because Schultz is also good at that stuff. But I think Schultz is a better route runner, so they like getting him downfield a little bit more.
Is it possible that Devin Singletary really actually has the best matchup here? The Ravens are allowing the 6th most adjusted yards before contact, 4.5 yards to carry to running backs. I mean, I don't trust Singletary, but I mean,
last 5 weeks it's gotten worse too. They're like almost 2.7 adjusted yards before contact. Some of that, John, is a little inflated because the game script for Baltimore is always really good. So what ends up happening is you get a lot of teams running like draw on 3rd and 10, and they're going to get 8 yards before they get touched. So that
hurry up mode.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that is a great matchup for him. So Baltimore's actually been especially weak on some outside zone type stuff as well, which is what obviously Bobby Slowick wants to do down there in Houston. So,
all right, well, we'll give him a shot here. For the Ravens, I looked at it. Looks kind of probably about an even matchup for Lamar based on the coverage shells. He's not great against cover 2, for example. They run that about 16% of the time. Didn't crush it in that first matchup. So early on in the offense, threw a pick, 169 scoreless yards, though certainly easier to throw on Houston than to run. Flacco did get some digits here. Brett, what do you think about the general matchup here for Lamar? This might not be a big running game for him, but then again, maybe he runs a lot in lieu of handing it off to the running backs because it's such a tough matchup.
Yeah, so among the playoff teams remaining, Houston plays the least amount of man coverage. I think that, to your point, that could potentially slow Lamar down as far as how much he runs the ball. I will say, though, since week 11, Lamar, I mean, he's my MVP. He kind of was for most of the season, but since week 11, this guy is playing out of his mind. He ranks top 5 in literally every statistical or advanced analytic metric we have in the fantasy points data suite. 5th in yards per attempt, 4th in completion percentage over expectation, which is a crazy stat considering the narrative surrounding Lamar Jackson coming into the season, the accuracy issues we saw his entire career. To be 4th in the entire NFL in completion percentage over expectation for that is crazy, especially when he is pushing the ball downfield the way he is. So it's almost like there's no bad matchup for him right now. He's just playing that good. The one thing that gives me a little pause is Houston has one of the best pass rushers in the NFL over the last 5 weeks. Sorry. Their time to pressure in that span is like 2.49, which is one of the lowest marks in the league. Baltimore, on the other hand, Lamar's time to throw is 3.08. So there's going to be a rubber meets the road situation here where Lamar wants to hold the ball. Texans get home quickly. Does that lead to more rushing, or does that lead to, Lamar having to speed his process up, which we haven't really seen him have to do this year?
Could it mean a little bit short passing game to like Zay Flowers?
That's kind of what I was getting at by speeding that process. Yep, Zay Flowers, maybe if Andrews is back, they get him involved that way in some of the short parts of the field. But yep, Zay.
One thing I do want to add, John, Humphrey did not play in week 1. He was coming off of that foot procedure in August, and Nico had a good game there. They took some shot plays to him. He was actually really active in that game, so that's just one thing to take a look at without Humphrey again. That if you're looking for, I don't know what his prop is for yardage, but that could be factored in.
I can actually look that up. I had a question about the Ravens letting Melvin Gordon go, so I expect Dalvin Cook will dress this weekend.
He will. No, he'll be the 3rd back. I know that a personal source who graded Cook's tape said he absolutely lost a step. In fact, this guy's report that he handed to his general manager said, "No, I think we should pass on him." So almost liked him. Now he can help with pass protection. That he knows how to do that. Obviously, that's not Hill's forte. But yeah, I would, for fantasy, for a prop, I mean, there's no way.
Brett, real quick, they don't travel Stingley at all, right? Because it seems like he is absolutely balling.
Stingley is absolutely balling. He has come on super strong. No, they don't really travel. He basically plays left cornerback like 95% of the time. The only time he's really not playing left cornerback is when there's not a receiver on that side. He'll play, we call it strong safety left, but it's basically the same position. So,
you do know about his grandfather, correct?
No.
Oh, that's Darryl Stingley's grandson. Darryl Stingley?
Really?
The late Darryl Stingley, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. I remember when it happened, Darryl Stingley, I believe. I was like 6 years old. It was like a big deal when he was paralyzed. That was a very high-profile play, Brett, because it was Jack Tatum who laid out the hit, who was the nastiest enforcer of the 70s, correct?
They called him the assassin. That's actually in his book, maybe. They call me the assassin.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that is an awesome story that Darryl Stingley's grandson is balling in the NFL. Derek Stingley. Let's see here. I had something else. Well, what do you think about their running game? It's a tough one to handicap here, Brett, but it does seem like, Gus Edwards is the guy, but, Justice Hill gets worked in there. Might it be a Justice Hill game against a tough run defense?
Yeah, to me, it's going to be all about down and distance. Like, Justice Hill seems to be more the change of pace, second long, third down kind of guy. So with Houston's, their run defense is excellent. It's probably, if it's not the best in the league, it's definitely top 3. If Baltimore can't run the football, you're going to probably see a lot more Justice Hill than you would think, because those, second long, third down situations, he'll be a part of that. So
that's what I mean. Yeah. By the way, not that I tied it into it, but he did score 2 rushing touchdowns, did Justice Hill, in that first matchup. Moving on to Green Bay at San Fran. Well, we did the live stream last week, and I feel like we certainly intimated that this could happen, and oh boy, it did. The Packers kicked ass and looking good here. But Adam, AJ Dillon, no practice.
Actually, no, he's not. He got working today, actually.
Oh, I thought he was like a no-go, but he's still questionable.
Yeah, no, he got some work in. He'll play if he gets cleared medically. He's got to get cleared for contact on the neck. So he missed 5 straight practices, but he got some work in today. He's got a chance. Now, if you watched the game last week, boy, as soon as Aaron Jones went out, they're running. It's like they were frozen. Emmanuel Wilson, he was on IR weeks ago. He slows everything down. It's all about Jones.
Yeah,
man. Jones brings the juice.
Yeah,
Patrick Taylor doesn't have it. Emmanuel Wilson certainly doesn't have it. The run game. As soon as he came out, it stopped. They couldn't move. They couldn't move.
Yeah. And then Brett, let's go into their offense. Jordan Love absolutely on fire. Not the greatest matchup here scheme wise. I looked at they play cover 3, 4, and 6, half the time, which is not ideal here for Jordan Love. Talk about the challenge. One of the first things that popped in my head when I realized that they were going to win is something that you've said all year about the Niners. If you can protect, with your tackles, without a ton of extra help. And I think Green Bay is probably one of the best candidates to be able to do that.
Yeah, I would say Green Bay's offensive line is probably the best pass protecting unit in the NFL. So I actually picked, I don't know if you saw in our staff pick'ems, John, I picked Green Bay to win this game. So
oh wow. I haven't made
this way.
The crap. I forgot to make
this
my pick.
game, the Niners, this week's game.
Yep, I picked Green Bay to
I can see it. I can absolutely positively see it.
Okay.
Every game San Francisco's played this year where the other team had a really good pass protection unit, they've lost. They have not played a single game where they've came out on top. That secondary is not very good, and when you give the opposing quarterback time, he can shred you. So I like Love a lot in this game. I know, some of the schematic matchups, he doesn't have the best numbers against, but I do really like what I'm seeing here.
Well, Brett, if you're right, then no offense to your Lions, I'm sure we'd get to that. If you're right, then the Green Bay Packers are going to the Super Bowl.
Well, they play at Detroit if Detroit wins. Yeah, how about that for the championship game?
That'd be an awesome
couple
game.
things we should mention. It's going to rain, barring a change. Obviously, could change. Now there will be no wind. I'm not too worried about it. Green Bay. The good thing is Watson came out of the game fine. Jaden Reed with a lingering chest injury is good to go. So all their skill position players, other than Dylan, are going to play.
And Jair Alexander.
Yeah. Now Jair they held him out today. That was a precaution. They want to give him a chance to play. Now he re-injured his ankle.
Mhm.
They said he could not go back in the game after he injured it. Obviously he played great. The thing. So Brett talked about the cornerback situation. Everybody goes after Diamador Lenore. They tried to make a trade for Jalen Johnson. They wanted him. They actually called the Raiders for, what did I put out there? Nate Hobbs. The Raiders, they weren't trading him. So
that would have been a good pick.
That tells you what they don't need to say it out loud. They're telling you folks they don't think they're good enough at corner opposite Ward. Yeah. So I agree with Brett. That's what you do. You go after Lenore, and if Ambry Thomas is in, you're going after him. Whoever's in, more Thomas than Lenore probably.
Yeah. Well, Brett, care to expand on what you're saying? Look, I mean, Brock Purdy throws an early pick. McCaffrey gets a little dinged. I mean, anything could happen. They are fairly talented still on defense here. What do you see here? What's the impetus for the upset pick?
Yeah, to me, it's just that when San Francisco's been in these situations where they need to trade blows with the other team, right, that's when you've seen Purdy crack a little bit. When he's playing with a big lead, he looks awesome. It's great. It's just those tight games is really where he's falling apart. And I think Green Bay has the firepower to keep this, close for the whole game, potentially even and get a little bit of lead depending on how the possessions work out early in the game. I like Matt LaFleur is absolutely balling right now as a play caller.
He is, man. Yeah.
You don't want to say losing a Hall of Fame quarterback is good for the team, but like Aaron was at a point where he was just kind of doing his own thing, running
100%.
Slant flat every other pass concept, which is what he loves. And
yep.
And I think Jordan Love's just doing what he's similar to Purdy, honestly, in San Francisco. He's just doing what he's being coached to do. He's got the talent to make it work, and he's just letting it rip. And he's got this Jordan Love's game is like this combo of like, it's a little Mahomesian, but it's a little
Mahomesian.
Stafford. It's like there's some really cool elements to that game.
There's
it's just
Rodgers.
Yeah, there's for sure some Rodgers too. And then also Aaron Jones just looks awesome too. Like last 4 games, 23 touches a game, 134 yards average, explosive run rates way up there again, forced missed tackles going through the roof, like vintage Aaron Jones. So all that really excites me. San Francisco on defense, they have a ton of talent, but it's so focused in one position. They're like 6 deep at defensive end to edge. Yeah. And you can't play all 6 of those guys all the time. So while they're giving you fresh bodies all game, it doesn't really matter when you have the pass protection unit the Green Bay Packers have.
Yeah, Cleveland Farrell's out. Chase Young will start. Is obviously an upgrade. I believe Young. I believe that Love can handle this. There's no quarterback playing better right now. He's so under control and so calm. Nothing phases him. Isn't it amazing how comfortable he is?
Oh yeah. Now, look, I hear you. I tweeted, by the way, right when it was evident that they were going to win. I was like, you know what? That shit could happen. They could win that game because I felt like it was legitimate. It was a legitimate claim. Of course, Twitter told me I was an idiot, but I will say for Brock Purdy in the offense, Green Bay's D is not overly aggressive. They're not a shutdown D. They're not a smothering D.
That's the best D, by the way, against Dallas that they played all year. It was I was shocked.
Yeah,
I don't know if they could do it 2 weeks in a row.
Right. They do have those big voids, Brad, as we've outlined here in the middle of the field. Kittle could crush them.
Yep.
They are zone heavy. Could be a big Debo game. I just think the talent is probably going to win out. But hey, I respect the take there because look, we've been kind of on this for most of the year. You know what I mean? Like all these. I said in the summer that I literally liked everyone on the Packers at their ADP. And I mean, they didn't produce a ton of stars, but they all had their little moments there, So I hear you.
One thing I will say too, John, is I think I'm really comfortable with the over on this game. 50.5 points right now. I'm very comfortable with the over. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, that's a great point. Let me ask you. No, let's say it's going to be a shootout back and forth affair. I guess you give the edge to Green Bay in that regard.
I do. That's the driving point of my argument is I think I think Love will make less mistakes in a game that's with that kind of game script. So,
Adam, what do you think? That's a great point. This turns into a back and forth shootout. Who you banking on, Love or Purdy?
Love. Purdy has not shown that ability. They're a play from ahead team. They're just not comfortable playing from behind.
That's true. That is true.
I can tell you that because that's the way other teams told me. Like you got to get ahead of them. They are a front running team and they are really hard to beat with it because they play a specific way. Kyle is he's Mr. Balance. True. He doesn't want them to not be balanced. This is the way that they talk inside their building, and so we also don't want Love to be far behind. We love the rhythm that he's playing with, which is incredible. And they're kind of a super spreader offense. Their pass target group, John, as you and I were talking about Wednesday, they're legit 6 or 7 deep. 2 tight ends, 5 receivers. Your boy Melton. It's been a nice story. Watson played limited snaps. He was playing in sub, but he'll play more this week. So let's go.
Now, the one thing is maybe the whole key to the game is if Christian McCaffrey comes out and doesn't look great or gets nicked up, then I'd say it's panic time. As somebody who had tens of thousands of dollars on the line with McCaffrey's last game, I can tell you he was not right before that injury. He looked noticeably the worst that he looked all year, in my opinion. Then all of a sudden, boom, he got hurt. So, I mean, I guess we're not worried about his calf. He should be good to go, right?
And he's playing. No, he's.
No, I mean, I know he's playing, but like,
it's over 2 weeks, so I mean, he should be. I mean, remember he didn't play in week 18, so this is actually nearly 3 weeks. He should look normal. Let's
not forget too. Also, back to the Kittle point. Our guy Jake Ferguson scored 3 tutties against the D last week. I know it was a hurry up, but
some garbage time there, but yeah,
it counts.
I will say though, the Green Bay's run defense has been awesome the last 7 weeks. I think Detroit, Green Bay, and Houston are the top 3 run defenses over the last 7 weeks. So that to your point, John, if CMC is not fully healthy and Green Bay is humming defending the run there, that could be problematic for them, making them one-dimensional.
Yep. By the way, that Jake Ferguson. Now, I've been a Jake Ferguson guy, but he's way more impressive in the NFL than it would have appeared coming out of that Senior Bowl week.
For sure.
He was just rock solid that week. That's all it was.
Yep.
To me, he looked like your quintessential tight end 2 forever. Like he'd just be a tight end 2 on a team forever. But he's a legit starter.
Yep.
Or a guy like, well, our tight end 1's Ferguson, but it's not bad for a couple years, Yeah. But he's more than that. Tampa at Detroit. Hell, I even worried about Schoonmaker at this point. Tampa at Detroit. What do we have here injury wise, Adam?
For Tampa, the only one is Shaq Barrett. He got hurt in the last game with an ankle injury. Yaya Diaby will play. Godwin, he's got this lingering knee problem. I don't know if it's related to the ACL, but he's playing. Baker's fine. He came out of the game. The Eagles never came close to hitting his ribs. It's ridiculous, just ridiculous. So he's good to go. He's going to have to be better. He was awful in the first. I actually rewatched that game this week. I don't know why. I had an hour to. He was awful in that first game against Detroit. You know what's crazy about that game in Week 6 at Tampa? Branch didn't play.
Wow.
They had 3 starters on defense out in that game.
Yeah, and offense too.
Yeah, and they still, Tampa got lucky. They played an awful Philly team last week, so I don't. I mean, I'm not saying it will be a blowout, but I don't see Detroit struggling at all in this game.
Brett, back to Baker. I don't think the offense was what this offense really ultimately became, and for the year is. But even in mid-October, it was still somewhat early. And I mean, the matchup here for Evans and Godwin is, I think you're preparing for the Lions to give up some points here, I would assume.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. That defense, they've gone through a transformation. It's completely an opportunistic defense, but they're going to give up points along the way. Just the way that they're playing this uber aggressive, Brian Flores style where, actually, I shouldn't say they're going to give up points. They'll give up yards. Points is actually, they're only giving up 20 points a game the last 6 weeks, which is great. That's, better than half the league. So, but just tons of yards, and they've been good in the red zone. Situational football has been good for them.
Red zone, that's what McVay said, Brett, is McVay said, look, we moved the football, but we could not score.
Yeah,
That's why they lost.
That's
They
true.
lost the game. You know,
And it's really this new aggressive style that Aaron Glenn has adopted. They're blitzing like crazy, 44% blitz rate in that same time frame I just laid out, which was their season average at the halfway mark was 18%. So it's a literal identity flip. They realized the only way to get Hutchinson the one-on-ones he needs is to send, get more exotic with it. And Hutchinson's thriving because of it. I think he's got 7 sacks the last 4 games. So this is, that's kind of the blueprint, but they're going to get up a ton of yards. Mike Evans should eat. Baker, to your point, like John, this offense did not start good. If you kind of project what they have done since week 13 on, it's been awesome for them.
Oh, who's back? James Houston, who's a sub-package rusher. They love him.
Yeah.
He got activated today. So in fact, if you look at who was out in the first matchup, Gibbs was out, Jonah Jackson was out on offense. On defense, Gardner Johnson was out, and Brian Branch was out. And yet on the road, they held them to 20 points, and they still were able to win rather handily. They dominated that game. I know it was a long time ago. Tampa is a very average team. That's the way they're seen around the league. They have upside because of the receiver group. And how about my boy Cade Otton out of the blue crushes Philly? And he dropped a ball. He dropped a 30-yard pass.
Who?
Cade Otton last week.
Oh, Cade Otton. Yeah. I'm like, who?
Finally.
Yeah.
He finished the season 11th in fantasy points per game this year.
I believe it. No, he was steady Eddie every week, getting 3 catches most weeks. It added up. Had a couple big games. It was like maybe 3 times a year. It was like during the year it was good. Not the worst schematic matchup here for Baker. They do play a decent amount of man. I looked here.
They've upticked that quite a bit lately too, John. I think their last 5 weeks they're like 34% man. Detroit is, because
it ties into them being more aggressive.
Yes, exactly.
Which could lead them more prone to big plays. What about the notion of Rashad White? They've been pretty good limiting running backs out of the backfield, right? Rashad didn't do all that much. I feel like Rashad catches 4 or 5 balls though in this one.
Yeah, they've even been good at stopping that, believe it or not.
I know.
They're good at both, but yeah, I think McVay definitely had that idea with Kyron last week. They just unfortunately a couple balls got batted down or whatever. But yeah, I would say that if you want to mitigate a blitz, start hitting the screen game to your running back, and that'll back a team off pretty quickly. And Rashad's been great at that all year long. So,
yep. How about David Moore, Adam? We were on a secondary guy doing it.
Yeah.
We got lucky because they both did, but David Moore,
Trey Palmer. I mean, dude, it should have been an 8-yard completion.
I know. That was lucky.
That was one of the worst efforts of tackling I've seen in my life.
Oh, the Eagles looked checked out. Like they were.
I know, didn't they? They were terrible.
Yep.
But our guy David Moore, John, it's been 6 years since he was a factor. 6 years.
By the way, they said somebody told me today that it was the second worst collapse maybe ever in the modern era of a 10-1 team.
Do you know that David Moore's been on 7 teams?
Yeah, I do. I would have guessed 8.
Guess what school he went to? You'll never get it.
South Carolina.
Nevada.
East Central State.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Exactly.
I knew that.
All right. Well, for Mr. Jared Goff, I'd say plus matchup here. They do play a lot of man. He's not great against that. Not great against cover 2 and 6, but good against cover 3 and 4, which we're looking at a 60+% time in those shells, Brett. So what about Goff?
Yeah, I like the matchup. He's especially good at these types of cover 3 and cover 4 they're going to see, because those corners are going to be backed off a little bit because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers like to blitz. Last 5 weeks, 53% blitz rate, which is insane. Goff is also good against the blitz, by the way, unless the blitz gets home. That's a different conversation. Goff not good under pressure, but when you blitz him and the O-line picks it up, he was
really good in that first matchup. He was so composed, and they let him throw the ball. It was interesting, they controlled the game, but he still put the ball up 44 times, which I thought was pretty.
I mean, 353 yards.
Yeah.
8 yards an attempt.
Laporta is much better this week. He did they played more than probably we expect him to play. Labored a little bit, but he got a lot of work and he's good to go. The only player they won't have is Khalif Raymond. He's got the sprained knee.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
bummer.
You know what? I'm a little surprised that Donovan Peoples-Jones, Brett, has been a complete non-factor.
I told you that, John, at the trade.
So
I wouldn't play.
When they traded for him, it was twofold. It was J-Mo had not quite broken out as the wide receiver 2 yet. J-Mo's playing the second most snaps on the team right now at receiver. So that had not happened yet. And then 2, Caleb Raymond was banged up. Craig Reynolds was banged up. They needed a backup punt returner and gunner. And Peoples-Jones is a gunner for them, and he's their backup punt returner. So, Khalil Dorsey was also on IR at that time. So they really needed some special. They value special teams a lot. So they basically.
Dave Phipp is an awesome special teams coach. He's one of the best. Yeah.
Well, what about the Lion running attack here? That is a pretty good strength of the Tampa defense.
Yep.
You know, are they going to be able to impose their will right away? It may take them a little bit to chip away at a little bit. I could see, because there have been games more often than not, where they just come out and run it right away. Well,
yeah. Like even last week, the second drive against the Rams, it was like 3 in a row went for 10 plus, and you're like, oh my God, this is gonna be a long day for the Rams defense. And then it slowly got turned off a little bit. But this could be the opposite of that. I think it's gonna have to be a grinded out game. It is interesting because the first matchup we didn't have so Montgomery left the first quarter, right? Gibbs didn't play. They were down Jonah Jackson.
Yeah.
Vaitai had just gone on IR. So there were some issues that first game. I do think Tampa's run defense is really good though, especially with Vea healthy. So that could be a grinded out style game for sure.
By the way, we were all over Josh Reynolds last week. I listed both prop, over the catch, over the yards. That was, boy, there's nothing better when you're on a guy like that and he comes right out of the gate with like 2 for 40 in like the first drive.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Dude, he had 80 yards at halftime or something?
Yeah, they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
How about the Sun God though, man? He is so damn good. I'm trying to think of like, honestly, you know who it kind of compares to a little bit. You know, it's almost like Jerry Rice at this point, Adam, in that not overly impressive physically, not fast.
He reminds me of a smaller Keenan Allen. He's a massive pass target receiver. He catches everything. He's a little bit slight of build, as we were saying weeks ago. You basically have to think he's going to miss a couple games each season because he's just smaller. But he's an absolute baller.
I don't think he missed any this year, though, did he?
Oh, yeah.
I think he got hurt a little bit. Maybe did he miss a game?
He missed like 2. I'll double check. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, I know that sounds absurd, but I'm just talking like there aren't many dudes in the modern.
He missed one with an abdomen injury.
There aren't many guys in the modern era who put up these kind of numbers and command the ball like this, unless they're like freaking Julio Jones. You know what I mean? Like, and he's not Julio Jones. Neither was Jerry Rice. He was like a 4 or 5 guy. Anyways,
it's not slow though. Like I know we've got so many fast demons now that seems slow, but that's still not slow. And
Jerry got great separation.
Yeah, well, and that's where Amon-Ra's great. Like he had an elite 3-cone, elite short shuttle. Like he's short area quickness over long speed for sure.
Well, that's a little Rice there. I mean, again, I know it's a weird comp, but
but Jerry's run after catch is, arguably the best in NFL history.
That's true. That is very true. It's a little bit of a different skill set game and all that. Yeah, no doubt. Let's see. Jerry wasn't bad in those air yard balls either, to tell you the truth, for sure. What else we have? All right, well, I guess we're good. I think we've kind of covered every angle there. And we can move on to the final game, which is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills.
Oh boy, a lot of injuries.
What's up with Teron Johnson? All the injured Bills here?
Yeah, so they're really banged up on the back 7. It's mostly at linebacker. So Terrell Bernard, their Mike linebacker, he has a right ankle, doesn't look good. Gabe Davis obviously is highly unlikely to play with his PCL sprain, but getting back to defense, Shakir fills in for him. Scored last week. So Terrell Bernard doesn't look good for him. Teron Johnson has got one more step and he'll get cleared out of the protocol.
What about Benford?
Yeah, here's Benford hasn't done anything with his knee injury. We'll see. We'll see tomorrow because they do work tomorrow. The kid Dotson, who was starting for who missed last week's game with a shoulder injury, he was filling in for Milano. they're hopeful that he could take contact on this injury. And the kid who filled in for him hurt his back, Balin Spector, who was drafted last year. So they're super banged up at linebacker. We don't know about Benford yet. And by the way, the weather will be cleared by – they're going to get smoked on Saturday with snow, but it's going to clear out. And Sunday should be fine. There's going to be passing. You saw what Andy Reid did. He didn't care that was below zero. He threw the hell out of it. You saw 41 attempts. They're going to throw the football.
True. Yeah, he did. Brett, I think these injuries are good for Mahomes because I feel like they need some help at this point. What do you think? Not the greatest schematic matchup here. They're going to play a lot of cover 4, cover 6, which a little bit of a challenge. I think not to be blatantly obvious, but last week I wrote in the article that I thought it would be 80% Kelsey and Rice, and it was like 79%.
Yeah.
I feel like this will be a big Kelsey game. What else do you think?
Big Kelsey, big Rice game again, especially if Buffalo's going to back off and play that much too high with the current state of their linebacking unit. This is going to be Rice and Kelsey all day. I think 80%, whether that's a joke or not, that's a legit reality again here this week. So I love both those guys in this matchup. Buffalo, gosh, AJ Klein played damn near every snap the other night.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, that's
isn't that insane? Of all people, that's
Do
not.
you think this might go upset here with KC?
I picked KC to win this game. Yeah.
Oh
So
my
did I.
God.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah. I
Man,
think
these are the hardest playoffs to pick, man. These are really hard.
Yeah,
Mahomes just
agree
goes
with
to a different level in the playoffs. It's wild. Even last week, I just felt like he looked more comfortable, more confident, more, just everything he's good at. He just did it last week, and I know it was an easier matchup, but man, he wants it more in the playoffs.
Now, the other thing that scares you a little bit, no Gabe Davis potentially. You've got Diggs getting the L'Jarius jam treatment, and you've got Shakir inside often against McDuffie.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to run the ball, and I think it's a Kincaid game.
Kincaid, and literally no one is going to want to hear this, John, but also Dawson Knox.
He did score last week.
He did score.
Chiefs have been bad against inline tight ends. I know Kincaid, they move him around. He'll play inline, he'll play in the slot. But when they go 12 personnel, for whatever reason, it's like Major League Baseball. The shift goes right to Kincaid. He's going to have 2 defenders in his vicinity, and Knox has the seam all day long. It's wide open on tape. There's no way Buffalo's not seeing that. I really do think that Knox could have a big player too. I know that's so not sexy at all for fantasy or props or whatever, but I like both Kincaid and Knox in this game, and Khalil Shakir to a certain extent. So,
yeah, I could not believe that Shakir only got 3 catches in that game last week. I mean, I did a video. We put it out. I'm like, there's a lock. Thank God it hit finally, but I guess they did a good job. But man, he's good. Do you have something, Adam?
No. I was going to say at least Shakir started. And again, Gabe Davis is on contract here. If they don't re-sign him, it's going to be Shakir because they love his ability. Because Gabe doesn't have Shakir's versatility. He just doesn't run as deep, and Gabe's a better run blocker. But Shakir's a good football player, and they don't have anyone else, John. That's it.
When they drafted Shakir, I thought it was for sure a Gabe Davis replacement. What he did at Boise State was what Gabe Davis does for the Bills. It's really, his transition to the slot, it was surprising to me. He's surprisingly good at it as well. So to Adam's point, he can do a lot of different things. And if he becomes a focal point of the offense, I do think he's a really he has a promising future there for sure.
I think it's going to have to be a James Cook game. Chiefs are giving up pretty generous 4.6 yards a carry. That includes last week when, the Miami Dolphins backs were frozen literally, but that will wrap it up. We thank Mr. Caplan, Mr. Whitefield, our guy Trey, Tommy T on the other side of the glass. I did spend way too much time on that Hansen's Hints article last week. It was pretty good. Props were good mostly, but a couple of bad spots, but still did go 4-1 on my top 5 props, nice, which puts me at 64.2% for the year. I'm trying to finish strong to get 65% So
you have a 900 number on your
What's that?
900 number.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my own 900 number. Yeah, 65%. So that's pretty good. So I'll get to work on that. We'll put that up tomorrow. We'll do a couple of more live streams, all the content as usual. Stay for it all. For Adam and Brett, I'm John. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the games, and we'll catch you next time at fantasypoints.com.